No state shall deprive any person of life, liberty, property without due process.
Why shouldn't we be trying to pull levers to get people like that out of the country?
What is the latest argument why that's okay?
I've got a couple clips for us to look at of Scott Jennings with Bill Maher as he was shut down on numerous topics, so I want to hop right in and check out a few of these. But first, if you can, leave us a like on the video. It really helps us out. It boosts the videos in the algorithm, and we appreciate it tons. And let's otherwise get right to the discussion.
2015, Scalia died. Was that it? It was, or was it 16? I think.
15. Yeah.
15. Okay. So Obama still had another over a year in office, and usually when a president is in office, he gets to choose who the Supreme Court nominee. He wanted Merrick Garland, and Mitch McConnell would not even give him a hearing. That was unprecedented. What is the latest bullshit argument why that's okay?
Well, if the bullshit you're referring to is the advise and consent clause in the U.S. Constitution,
no.
That's the argument.
At the time, the argument was it's too close to an election. It was 2015.
Well, that wasn't the full argument. The full argument was we had divided government, and then the American people were going to make a decision, and they did, and they chose a Republican president.
Later.
Well, as I just said in the editorial, if it had been the other way around, you would have went apeshit about it. If somebody had tried... no? You'd have been cool with it?
The advise and consent clause is just what splits the power between the president and the Senate. It's not an argument, and there was no legitimate argument to withhold Obama's power to appoint a justice to the seat. And the fact Republicans held it hostage for over a year is unreconcilable. It's illegal and probably unconstitutional. Their argument is that, well, we were 1 year away from the election and the American people should decide, which is logic that just could be extrapolated to block a president out for their entire term. And then they went on and let Amy Coney Barrett be confirmed with even less time than what Obama would have had. So it's just unprecedented and outside of the scope of their power, where the American people had spoken after the 2012 election and left that power with Obama.
If everything probably is too concentrated in Washington, it's a little too incestuous, right?
I have a take on this about the media. I think news organizations should incorporate more bureaus outside of New York, LA, and Washington.
Oh, totally.
And Cincinnati and wherever, because the bias in media can, I'm sure you would agree, can be liberal, but it's like less political to me than it is cultural and class-based. And, you know, I just hire more reporters in Des Moines.
He is spot on here, and to be clear, this is exclusively a left critique. The right thinks media is politically biased, which in terms of what it reports on, sure, but not in terms of how it reports on them. And the right just thinks because they can't critically engage with things that make their side look bad, there has to be some sort of bias, right? But there is a very distinct class bias of the elites always protecting the elites. I mean, the interest of money, and that's because it's the elites who control these things. Even CNN is owned by a billionaire who donates to conservatives. And that's also why Trump will never fix any of these issues despite invoking them, albeit in a cultural sense, not a class sense. And that's because you aren't just going to rid of the elites by appointing billionaires who don't live in DC. It has to be genuine everyday people with the interests of everyday people at mind.
How did he come in and stay here for this long? Why shouldn't we be trying to pull levers to get people like that out of the country?
So your view is that bad dudes could be sent to a foreign prison? That can't be...
In the country where they are a resident or a citizen? Sure.
Okay, but
he's from El Salvador.
that's not what the Constitution says. I mean, our friend Byron Donalds, who has been on the show before this week, said due process is reserved for American citizens. But that is not what the Constitution says.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe it should, but that's not what we're talking about. We're saying, what does it say? I mean, if you were the Founding Fathers and you were writing the Fifth Amendment or the 14th Amendment, because both of them use the word person. They knew the difference between the word person and the word citizen. It says no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process. That's the Fifth Amendment. The 14th says no state shall deprive any person of life, liberty, property without due process.
They're discussing Abrego Garcia in this clip, but Bill Maher is completely right. And I find it hilarious how Republicans will invoke the Constitution when they believe it like solidifies their argument as undebatable, but they'll quickly dismiss it when it hinders or violates what they want to do. And to clarify the constitutional language, the drafters absolutely draw a clear distinction between a person and a citizen. The 14th Amendment clarifies what requirements make a person a citizen. Article 2 states only persons who are citizens can be the president, meaning there is a clear distinction. So it's not like, well, they meant citizens. No, it's obvious, right? And Abrego Garcia also specifically had a court order to not be sent to the country they sent him to, but there's no legal or constitutional basis for obstructing due process for any person in America. In fact, there's actually a direct constitutional basis against it, showing how quick Trump is to violate the Constitution in just 100 days, our democracy by extension, and how the entirety of MAGA is now carrying water and defending him doing so because, well, at least it's against the brown people and not us.